Lensbaby optics in the optic swap system include the double glass, single glass, plastic, pinhole zone plate, soft focus, 12mm fisheye, sweet 35, and edge 80. These optics all do very different things. The double glass is a lens that creates a very sharp spot of focus. It has two glass elements and multi-coated design so that that spot of focus is prime lens sharp. It drops off to out of focus very quickly, and like with the other selective focus lenses, the sweet spot lenses, you are able to change the size of that sweet spot by stopping down. So you can make it bigger or smaller. Smaller is the bright apertures, bigger is the darker apertures. The single glass is more of a nostalgic look, but very similar to the double glass, with one spot of focus and gradually increasing blur as you move away from that spot. The plastic optic kind of turns your $2,500 DSLR into a toy camera, but it's more like a toy camera on crack, especially at the brighter apertures, where you end up with something that is very impressionistic and very crazy, whereas at the darker apertures, as you go down toward f/22, you get more of a just a lo-fi look. Does wonderful things to the colors and the contrast. It's a wonderful lens to play with. I really enjoy it. The pinhole zone plate has two modes. One mode is pinhole at f/177, and the other mode is zone plate, which is a type of pinhole, a series of concentric circles that are clear and black that focus the image, that's f/19. What's nice about the Lensbaby system using pinhole zone plate that I really enjoy is being able to use the accessories, being able to use especially the super wide, which allows me to shoot on my DSLR at 21mm. Normally, pinhole photography would be shot wide angle because you can move it real close to a film plane, but with a mirror in the way, that's not the case. I really enjoy the pinhole zone plate that we have using it with our accessory lenses. The soft focus gives a flatter field of focus than our selective focus, our sweet spot lenses. It allows you to have more of, at a portrait framing, you can get an entire face in focus at f/4, and it has beautiful, it does beautiful things to the highlights. It kind of is very flattering in the way that it diffuses the images, and the highlights in the image really soften the rest of the image, and it's very forgiving to skin tones, and it has a very nostalgic feel, similar to the plastic and the single glass, but it's a much more precise optic, and as you stop it down it becomes quite sharp and much more like a normal lens. The 12mm fisheye lens gives me a 12mm fisheye, and I can put it into any of the optic swap lens bodies, and it is particularly suited for the Scout lens body because the Scout points it straight ahead, and so your circle of fisheye lens is pointed straight ahead and always centered in your image. The apertures change a little differently than the other lenses we've talked about, whereas you unscrew the front half from the back half and you drop apertures inside. With no aperture, it's f/4, and my favorite aperture for the fisheye lens is about f/8. The Lensbaby Sweet 35 optic is a 35mm focal length. It has a very similar image to the double glass, a little smaller sweet spot, and that sweet spot doesn't grow quite as much as you stop it down. So you're going to have a very impressionistic, very dramatic look to your images that is similar to the way the human eye sees, but it is much more dramatic. And a 35 millimeter focal length is a great focal length. On full frame cameras, if you tilt all the way to the edge with the Sweet 35, you'll get a little bit of vignetting. However, you generally don't need to tilt that far in order to move your sweet spot to match your rule of thirds, or to get to your subject matter that's off center. And so you can avoid vignetting and still be able to tilt the Sweet 35 quite a bit. The Edge 80 optic is our first flat field optic. It's highly corrected to have a flat field of focus, so when it's pointed straight ahead, you're going to get edge-to-edge sharpness on one plane. It's a beautiful portrait lens when pointed straight ahead or when tilted. The reason you tilt the Edge 80 is not necessarily the same as what you would with the sweet spot lenses. The sweet spot lenses, you always have the effect of the Lensbaby, whether you're pointed straight ahead or whether you're tilted. The only reason to tilt them is to move your spot of focus around. With the Edge 80, when you're pointed straight ahead, you don't get the Lensbaby effect. You don't get any kind of special effect with it. You just get a great lens. When you tilt it, you take that great lens and you move that plane of focus in a way that it's no longer parallel with the image plane. So you can get selective focus, you can get infinite focus in areas that an 80 millimeter normally wouldn't get, depending on the effect that you're going for.